Imagine firing a bullet at a sheet of tissue paper. You'd expect it to tear right through. But what if the bullet bounced back? That's exactly what happened when scientists shot particles at atoms. And it revealed something about atomic structure that no one was prepared for. The atom, the building block of everything you see, is almost entirely empty space. One young scientist discovered a hidden staircase in nature. A pattern so simple, so elegant. It revealed the atomic number of every element, predicted how many could ever exist, and exposed the gaps where undiscovered ones were hiding. He had found nature's recipe for matter itself. He was 27 years old, on the verge of reshaping our understanding of matter. Instead, he was sent to a war he didn't understand, to a land far from his laboratory, and the world lost one of its brightest minds forever. This is the story of the atom, the genius who unlocked its deepest secrets, and the tragedy that silenced him. We talked about Humphrey Davy's journey from the countryside to the Royal Institution, and if you remember, there was a race to discover elements. Alongside Davy, many scientists were hunting for new elements in nature, and new ones were appearing almost every day. But we left off at a crucial moment: Davy's revolutionary intuition. As Volta's battery accelerated the race for elements, Davy began to suspect that electricity was woven into the very fabric of all elements, hidden deep inside the structure of molecules. He described electricity as the glue that holds matter together. And, as it turned out, he wasn't wrong at all. We're talking about the late 1800s. Everyone was experimenting with electricity. When you ran a current through metal, the metal would start to glow, and the people watching these experiments were absolutely mesmerized. In 1897, a physicist from Cambridge University decided to investigate this mysterious glow coming from metal. His name was J.J. Thomson. Thomson took a tube that reflected the light coming from the metal, and he brought a magnet close to it. He could barely believe his eyes. The magnet was bending the beam of light. This meant electricity wasn't some untouchable force. It had to be made of particles, and those particles had to carry a negative charge. We would later call them electrons. But the electron wasn't just a piece of electricity. Thomson also noticed something remarkable. No matter what kind of metal he used to produce the glow, the result was always the same. The electron was identical in every type of matter. Thomson made a bold conclusion. The electron is the same everywhere, in all matter, across the entire universe. A tiny, incredibly small particle sitting alongside the atom. In other words, the idea that the atom was indivisible was slowly being put to rest. And so the journey into the depths of the atom had begun. What was it made of? How did its parts hold together? These fundamental questions caught the attention of some of the greatest minds in history. One of them was the 22-year-old son of one of England's most distinguished scientific families, Henry Moseley, the protagonist of a story that would end tragically, far from home, on the shores of a distant land. A remarkable genius. Unlike Davy, he was born into privilege. His grandfather was a fellow of the Royal Society, and his father was a professor at Oxford. But his father died when he was just 3 years old, and he was raised by his mother. Still, the love of science running through his veins never faded. He studied physics at Trinity College and stayed in academia from there on. His greatest stroke of luck came when he moved to Manchester, where he had the chance to become the assistant of the man who would change his life. One of the era's most brilliant physicists, a New Zealander named Ernest Rutherford. Marie Curie had just published her groundbreaking work on radioactivity. Rutherford threw himself into the field, and it wasn't long before he won the Nobel Prize in Physics for discovering that radioactive atoms emit different rays and particles as they decay. Beyond his research, Rutherford was also known as an exceptional teacher. When the young Moseley joined his team, Rutherford immediately put him to work on radioactivity experiments. He was always there for his students, seeing their weaknesses, guiding them in the right direction, patiently explaining where to look. His students even nicknamed him Papa. But Moseley wasn't alone. Just look at the team Rutherford had assembled. Hans Geiger, Charles Galton Darwin, and James Chadwick, each of them destined to revolutionize their own fields. I want you to imagine that workspace. A team like the Avengers. Under Rutherford's leadership, every single one of them working tirelessly around one fundamental question. What is the structure of matter? With that goal, they dove into the depths of the atom. And just a few months after Moseley arrived, Rutherford was about to make one of his greatest discoveries. They already knew that Thomson's strange, negatively charged particle was an important part of the atom, but two enormous questions stood in their way. They knew atoms were electrically neutral overall, but with the discovery of the negatively charged electron, something had to be balancing that charge. So where was it? The other question was even more puzzling. The electron was far less massive than the atom itself. So how was all that mass distributed? And the answer to both questions would come from one legendary experiment, the gold foil experiment. The team used positively charged alpha particles produced by the radioactive decay of radium, and they fired these particles at an extremely thin sheet of gold foil. Most of the time, the particles passed straight through, as if the foil wasn't even there. But every once in a while, incredibly rarely, some particles bounced right back, as if they'd hit a wall. This was a deeply strange result. Rutherford himself explained why with an analogy. Imagine firing a bullet at a sheet of tissue paper. What would you expect? The bullet to tear right through it. But here, the bullet was bouncing off the tissue paper and coming right back. Rutherford thought long and hard about this. And one day, in 1910, he walked into the laboratory and said he knew what it meant. The atom was overwhelmingly made up of empty space. But at its center, there had to be something incredibly dense. Most particles sailed right through the empty space, but the ones that came close to the center bounced off that incredibly dense region. Today, we call it the atomic nucleus. Of course, at the time, Rutherford and his team thought of the nucleus as a single, indivisible, positively charged mass. The atom was slowly giving up its secrets. A brand new picture of the structure of matter was emerging. Almost all of the atom's mass was concentrated in the nucleus at its center, with electrons orbiting around it in no fixed boundaries. And perhaps the strangest conclusion of all, the atom, the thing everything is made of, is almost entirely empty space. The excitement in the Avengers laboratory in Manchester was relentless. Rutherford and his team had opened an entirely new window into the structure of matter. But let's not forget about our Moseley. While all this was happening, the young Moseley was continuing his radioactivity experiments on the side. And honestly, he was getting a bit bored, repeating other people's experiments that didn't seem to lead anywhere. Maybe there was also a strong instinct to prove himself. And as it turns out, opportunity would come down to a bit of luck. In 1912, his radioactivity equipment broke down, and for a brief period, he had the freedom to focus on something else entirely. Right around that time, a brand new discovery about X-rays, which had been found roughly 15 years earlier, was taking the scientific world by storm. A study in Germany was claiming that X-rays shared similar properties with visible light. What did this mean? As you already know, a prism separates white light into different colors, each with its own wavelength and frequency. And it appeared that X-rays could be separated in exactly the same way, using a crystal instead of a prism. But instead of a rainbow, what appeared on the photographic plate was a symmetric pattern of dots. What on earth was going on? Moseley immediately proposed to Charles Galton Darwin that they work on this together. But first, they needed permission from Rutherford to dedicate all their time to it. Rutherford initially said no, pointing out that they lacked the right equipment and expertise. But when he saw how passionate the two young men were, he gave them permission, on the condition that they keep him informed at all times and proceed with extreme caution. And Rutherford would soon see just how passionate they were. Darwin later wrote in a letter, "Working with Moseley was one of the most exhausting things he had ever done." Without question, Moseley was the hardest working person he had ever met. Rutherford would arrive at the laboratory in the morning only to find that Moseley had just left. Sometimes, Moseley worked for 20 hours straight without a break. We look at his story and say, he was lucky because he came from a scientific family. But this kind of relentless dedication proves that no real achievement can be explained by luck alone. Moseley's story is one that ends in heartbreak. But before we get there, let's look at the mark he left on science. They worked together intensely, but eventually Darwin stepped away to focus on his own research, perhaps also because he was simply exhausted. He apologized to Moseley and wished him luck, but Moseley kept working day and night without stopping. Here's what he was working on. All the elements discovered up to that point were organized in what we know as the periodic table. But there was a major problem with that table. The elements were arranged simply by atomic weight, but in famous cases like cobalt and nickel, the physical properties of the atoms suggested that the heavier one should actually come before the lighter one. This anomaly was deeply confusing. And this is where Moseley saw his chance. He wanted to solve this problem by running experiments on every element he could find, using the newly discovered X-ray method. Using an apparatus he designed entirely by himself, he bombarded every element he could get his hands on with electrons, and then studied the patterns that the emitted X-rays filtered through a crystal left on photographic film. At some point, a fascinating pattern started to emerge. On the film, he could see the X-ray spectrum of each element with striking clarity. Every element had its own unique X-ray spectrum, and when he stacked them up by frequency, an incredibly simple pattern appeared before him. Today, we call it Moseley's ladder. If you're enjoying this journey through the history of the atom, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the next chapter. And tell me in the comments, did you know about the cobalt and nickel problem before Moseley solved it? This was an incredible discovery. Do you know why? First of all, it was now crystal clear that the order of elements had nothing to do with atomic weight. They were organized by something far simpler. Something hidden inside the atomic nucleus that nobody had recognized before. The number of protons. And to this day, that's how elements are ordered in the periodic table, by their atomic number. And here's what makes it even more remarkable. Think of it as a puzzle. When you place the known elements into their positions according to the data, there were gaps, and those gaps screamed one thing: undiscovered elements. And what was even more extraordinary, he had the entire spectrum in front of him, which meant he could predict exactly how many elements could ever exist. He was looking at nature's recipe for all matter. Moseley had now earned his place among the most brilliant minds of his generation. Until it was 1915. A world war erupted, and Moseley was called to serve. His final posting would be in Turkey. He was sent to Gallipoli. In his letters to his mother, he wrote that Turkey was a beautiful place. He said he was terribly bored and that he couldn't understand why he was there. 1 week after the letter he sent to his mother on August 3rd, 1915, thanking her for the jam she had sent him, Moseley, who should have been in his laboratory, who had so many more discoveries to make, who was sent to a war he never understood, lost his life at the age of 27. The news was devastating for the entire scientific community. The harshest reaction came from Rutherford himself. The nation sent him to a senseless war, he said, when he could have been doing infinitely more valuable work for all of humanity. Another physicist, Robert Millikan, later said something even more striking. This war, just for taking the life of this one young man, is one of the most terrible crimes in all of history. In my view, the legacy he left behind lived on. By 1945, every single gap in Moseley's ladder had been filled, exactly as he had predicted. And every element discovered after him produced a spectrum that matched his predictions perfectly. A magnificent story. Our story doesn't have to end in sorrow. At the very least, by remembering his story, we can see the consequences of wars and atrocities as so much more than numbers. Never forgetting that every single life lost is a crime against all of humanity. By the way, our story is far from over. Make sure to stay tuned for what comes next. And as always, until we meet again, I'm so glad you're here. With love.